Well, this time is on the Examen, chapter 9. And the first question is, have you prayed the Examen? Ever prayed the Examen? Anybody done it?
No, I've done some variations, but it's not my favorite approach.
She tried it.
I tried it. I just read the book today. I tried it a little earlier. But
Well, I tried some of it. I didn't get all the way through it. I'm trying to. I like the one that fell asleep through it. And then like I like the short version, that's in the handouts. But when I get to the one that's 2 pages long, I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, it looks like it would take 3 hours to do. I know it's not supposed to take like 10, maybe 15 minutes.
well,
But
part of that you have to excuse to his writing style. Because he appears to be someone that wants to explain it to the 19th degree.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, they're teachers, aren't they?
He's a Jesuit teacher at that. So it was someone hit him with a ruler if he didn't write it down.
And I was relieved when I read at the back of the chapter, I can't remember what page it's on, where it said that there were like a myriad of ways to do the Examen. So I think what I'm going to do too is probably do my famous YouTube thing and search and find different ways of doing it. Because I think even using this as a guide, the short one, I don't know why you couldn't just do it the way it was meaningful to you.
There's, as you mentioned, there's various ways to approach Ignatian spirituality. I've been in some sessions, been online, etc. Not very much and not in a long while, but there are easier ways than the pages back there. And but there's a lot of options. You might also want to look, I don't know if they have it still, but Creighton University has some stuff online, creighton.edu. I know they've got retreat type stuff. Listen, that's my eloquent language. But anyway, you can find variations, probably any Jesuit website.
Do you use a variation of this?
I do not now know.
Well, and the two that I'm going to play, I mean, they both provided some insight to me. It's too bad that we can't see the scenes because they had really neat scenes and stuff along with it. But maybe we should do that. Hopefully this will work. There's hope. Now, the first one is like 4.5 minutes and the other one is like 9. So.
The Examen is a simple but powerful technique of prayerful reflection. Experience alone does not teach us much. It is when we reflect on our experience that we really begin to learn. The Examen is a practice developed by St. Ignatius of Loyola around 500 years ago. It can help us see God's hand at work in our daily lived experience. It is a simple prayer that has the capacity to transform our lives by helping us become more aware. It is best prayed daily. Step 1. Become aware of God's presence. Find a place where you can spend some uninterrupted time. Take a few quiet, slow breaths. Quiet your mind and calm your body, and gently relax into an awareness of God's presence. Imagine God welcoming you. Step 2. Review the day with gratitude. Take some time to think back over the day that has just passed. Ask God to show you the day through God's eyes. In the presence of God, review the day with gratitude. Gratitude is the foundation of our relationship with God. Notice any joys and delights. Focus on the day's gifts. Look at the work you did, the people you interacted with. What did you receive from these people? What did you give them? Pay attention to small things, the food you ate, the sights you saw, and other seemingly small pleasures. God is in the details. Step 3, review the day again and notice your feelings. Notice moments when you felt fully alive, times when you felt at peace, joyful, happy, comforted, whole, connected, challenged, your best self. Those moments in which you felt close to God. Allow some of these moments to come to mind. These are times of consolation. Choose the moment for which you feel most grateful and stay with it. Savor it. Notice how God might be drawing you to more of those kind of experiences. Take some time to give thanks to God. Now remember anything for which you are less grateful. Experiences that caused you to feel drained of energy, frustrated, irritated, angry, sad, alone, isolated, unaccepted, fragmented, less than your best self. Bring these memories before God and ask God to bring you the healing you need. Step 4, choose one feature of the day and pray from it. Choose one feature of the day and use it in your prayer. Ask the Holy Spirit to direct you to something during the day that God thinks is particularly important. It may involve a feeling, positive or negative. It may be a significant encounter with another person or a vivid moment of pleasure or peace. It may be something that seems rather insignificant. Look at it. Pray about it. Allow the prayer to arise spontaneously from your heart. The intercession, praise, repentance, or gratitude. Step 5. Look forward to tomorrow with hope. Look forward to tomorrow. Ask God to give you light for tomorrow's challenges. Pay attention to the feelings that surface as you survey what's coming up. Are you doubtful, cheerful, apprehensive, full of delighted anticipation? Allow these feelings to turn into prayer. What gifts do you think you might particularly need for tomorrow? Strength, energy, patience, courage? Ask for that gift. The more you practice the examen, the easier and clearer it will become, shedding light on the path God has laid out before you.
Well, I thought that was incredible.
That's the first time known that when I was working.
Yes.
It would have been helpful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I hadn't listened to his, and I haven't listened to this other lady for a long time either. That I'm gonna play her some minute. But I feel like he gave a whole different outlook of it from everything I've read on here and in the book. And
Who was that, Dan?
it was out of South Africa, believe it or not. It's the Jesuit Institute of South Africa.
Yeah, I had
It's
to-
called Ignatian Spirituality, the Examen.
It was, I thought, more positive than Martin's.
Absolutely.
So it seemed very different to me in the book.
Well, and in the chapter, I think it talked about that it wasn't supposed to be a real negative thing. But I had trouble keeping that in mind sometimes.
Yeah, I thought some of Martin's stuff I thought was negative.
But I like the things this man said, because he gave so many options of, it's almost like I want to go back and pause and write down and pause, you know, the way he did it, because it was quite a different take.
Yeah.
I felt like.
Yeah, facing your shortcomings was, for this audio, was not so negative. It was it's okay, just face them and move on, just accept them. And it was really good.
Well, and I thought that I heard him, or I felt that I heard him say, take one shortcoming, one,
And focus.
yeah, on that one and pray about that one,
Yeah.
which that's a lot easier, I think, to do.
It's not so overwhelming.
Right.
Okay, I didn't know, listening to it, that it came out of South Africa,
Hmm.
but South Africa is basically the heart and soul of our church. Because, I mean, it survived there during apartheid and through the Mandela hearings and things like that, so you would have to have positive feelings for the future when your world's been completely torn apart twice in 20 years.
They did have Desmond Tutu to keep everything on track.
Yeah, they had Tutu did it, and they had Mandela had the forgiveness hearings. I mean, they spent a year and a half forgiving everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't hardly go today and forgive anybody. I don't know if we can battle, I don't know if we can make it
I
12
get mad at
hours.
somebody on the highway going home. I can't go that long.
And that's a perfect segue for me too, because I have a book and I would love for a group to do it here at church. But if not, I'm still going to do it on my own. But it's a book by Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama did it together, and they were real like best friends, besties. And they would get together often, you know, in all these different places around the world. And the book is called The Book of Joy.
Oh,
And if there's anybody
it's
that,
ironic.
yeah, I mean, if there's anybody that really must have incredible, beautiful joy, it would be Desmond Tutu. With everything, like he said, that he went through and did for South Africa.
He did, and I mean, I'm surprised he got to that point because things are so ugly when it first started. He'd become a lawyer and he started helping the Black people there because nobody else was gonna do it. But then he went the wrong way and he helped smuggle guns in the country, and that's when he got caught, got into trouble. And after that, yes, he went through an awful lot. That's why they kept him so long, but you know, it's like they made a martyr out of the man, they kept him so long. And made a big difference.
I mean, if you're going to fight evil, it's a rough battle.
Mhm.
Sometimes it seems a gun would help, I guess, he thought.
Well, and
Well, the problem is that people that don't adhere to violence are protected by people that are willing to commit violence. And so you have that, you know, somewhere in the middle, there has to be peace and quiet, and sometimes it doesn't happen.
And they never used rubber bullets in South Africa. They didn't start with that, so. I can show you what kind of a terroristic atmosphere that they had going.
Well, if you have the class, Sonia.
no, I just think it's a fun, and it's an older book, so I'm sure that it can be bought real cheaply online, used and all that kind of thing, because it's been out for quite a while. And then there's like a supplement, a workbook, but it has to be an online book or like a Kindle or something, and I'm not good at that. So you can't buy a printed one. I wanted the whole thing printed, but
Can you print it once you buy it?
only a certain percent.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just. So,
I
But
can use my Kindle now finally.
well, but I mean, I imagine we could make up our own questions to it too, you know. if we went through that. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and play this other one. Hopefully, yeah, my speaker looks like it'll work. And this is a nice little lady from, I think she said she's a chaplain. Okay, now I don't need you doing this too.
Hello, my name is Carmen Fitzsimmons, and I am the Catholic chaplain for faith formation here at Georgetown. Today, I'd like to talk about one element of Ignatian spirituality, the examen. The examen is a daily practice or habit of prayer that reflects on the day, typically prayed at the end of the day. It looks back at the movements of one's heart and spirit throughout the events of the day as a way of discerning where God might be at work in one's life. St. Ignatius called the examen the most important quarter of an hour of a person's day, because it takes very seriously that Jesuit ideal of finding God in all things and seeks God in the intimate details of the day. The examen has 5 basic steps, which are the 5 R's: remember, request, review, reflect, and resolve. First, we remember. We begin in gratitude, remembering the gifts of the day. Then we request. We ask for the gift of the Holy Spirit during this time of prayer and ask for the specific grace that we need. Most importantly, we review, which is typically the longest. We look back at the details of the day, watching it unfold like a movie, looking for what we might have missed in the moment. Next, we reflect, asking for forgiveness or healing or whatever might help to move forward. Finally, we resolve. We make a plan for tomorrow, taking into mind the insights of today's prayer. What I find is that when I spend 10 minutes each night praying the examen, I'm able to see God at work in my day-to-day life, encouraging me and nudging me and accompanying me. And when I pray the examen habitually, incorporating it into my regular spiritual practice, I find that listening starts to creep backwards into my day. It doesn't stay confined to the 10 minutes I give to the examen, but I start to notice God throughout the day. I'm able to see and notice God and listen to God's invitation and accompaniment. No matter what kind of day you've had or where you might be in your spiritual practice, the examen can be a powerful encounter with God and a renewing practice for you. So I invite you to join me in an examen now. Before you begin the examen, take a moment to enter into this spirit of prayer and reflection. If you are comfortable, close your eyes and relax your body. Let go of any tension you might be holding and settle into your seat. Take a few deep breaths, breathing in peace, tranquility, and focus. Breathing out distraction, negativity, and discord. Let go of anything on your heart and mind right now and settle into this moment here and now. We begin our examen by remembering in gratitude the gifts of today. These gifts can be big or small, as simple as a smile from a friend, a replenishing meal, or a beautiful sunset. What are you grateful for today? For what do you wish to thank God? We embark on our prayer by asking God for the grace that we need. What do you need today? Peace, hope, wisdom, or any other spiritual gift? Ask the Holy Spirit to accompany you in this prayer, and specifically to request the grace that you seek today. mindful of the gifts of today, and confident that we will receive the grace we seek. We'll now spend a few moments reviewing the day. Start at the beginning of the day and watch the events unfold like a movie. What were the emotions that you felt? St. Ignatius believed that the movements of our emotions can help us find the presence and actions of God. Pay attention to the details. God is in the details. What might God be saying to you today? Now that you've reviewed your day, spend some time reflecting on one element or moment. It could be an emotion you felt, positive or negative, an encounter with another person, or even something that seems unimportant. Ask for forgiveness or healing for whatever shortcomings you might have uncovered in your view. And spend some time in conversation with Jesus about it. Let your heart speak directly to him. Guided by this reflection, we look to tomorrow. What resolutions would you like to bring to tomorrow? How would you like to take your reflections into tomorrow's actions? Let your feelings and insights from today's prayer guide you for tomorrow. Ask God directly for what you need, confident that God will hear and answer you. Finally, let us close our examen with an Our Father. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Thank you for joining us today in this examen. I hope this video can be a resource to you in your prayer life.
Any more thoughts?
It's interesting, the opening segment, if you will. You could find that exact same thing, except with string instruments. It would be a very mellow drum at the Buddhist Center in the plaza, which is fine. But that I found that really interesting.
Well, I'm showing my age because when she started talking, she said there are the 5 R's and she rattled them off real fast. And I thought, that was too fast. I was channeling my dad at that moment. But I'll go back and listen and find out what those are. But,
Remember, I've got them.
oh,
Remember, request, review, reflect, resolve.
which to me leaves out the presence thing. So I wanted to say it's a P with 5 R's, but you know, because I mean, I think you need to, or at least I need to kind of get in that mode. It's like with the centering prayer thing, you've got to kind of get into the mood or so
I went to the church, this is when I was in the way. I went with Christy and a couple of others to Florida to a lesson thing. And we were there for about 4 days. And it was on prayer. And the church was giving this lecture. And they said every prayer, no matter what you're doing, no matter what kind of prayer it is, should always begin with gratitude. That's your introduction. That's how you approach. That's how you start. Every single prayer that comes. You know, usually my prayers just get right to the subject. You say, you can't do that. You have to be grateful. You know? So I thought, and then when I saw gratitude, I said, that's right.
well, and a lot of the Psalms are that way too.
Yeah,
I mean,
They're
even the
doing
ones,
things. Yes.
even the ones that are kind of hostile.
Yeah.
It'll usually start out with something peaceful, you know, some
And then it
gratitude, and then wham.
It's
But
good. It's going down.
but then it usually
Anyhow.
closes with gratitude and praise too.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, I probably didn't use the right words, but obviously everybody knew what I meant.
Well, last week I wasn't here, but the best line in the book that I've read so far was God answers all prayers. Sometimes the answer is no. So maybe that's why you really need to put the gratitude in there.
Well, and there, no, I'll probably never be able to find this page. But I liked when it talked about seeing God from the back. That you can see God present in your life hindsight. And I feel like that's that way for me a lot. And so I've kind of learned as life went on, when wild things happen or unpleasant things happen or unfortunate things happen. I used to always say everything happens for a reason. I'm not in that camp anymore. I think a lot of things happen for a reason, but not everything. But I've learned that sometimes I have to wait, and then I can see how God was working in it. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it may be years later that you know, the light bulb goes off and you see how it happened, why it happened that way. And I thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to you, and then later you find out why.
I mean, for God to give us free will, he has to be in the background. He can't be forefront saying, do this, don't do that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be free will, it'd just be us.
Well, and sometimes, like she was saying, sometimes the answer is no. And that was so hard for me when I worked on the floor and there were, you know, people with horrible MS or horrible crippling arthritis that had just chronic pain. You know, they wanted to be healed. You know, they prayed to be healed. You know, everybody else had prayed for them to be healed. And the answer apparently was no. It's very hard for me anyway.
So how do we,
I deal with it as I'm asking for something like that out of my wisdom. And I don't, God's wisdom is so much more profound, and God can see everything where I cannot. I'm going off of by what I perceive and can see and think, and the way I think it ought to be. And I mean, suffering is horrible, but I've heard so many people talk about wonderful's not the right word, but that they got a lot of beneficial results out of going through that experience, even though it was a horrible experience. Because see, I would never even want somebody to go through that, no matter what they'd learn or whatever. But it is, for me, it's hard to trust God's wisdom sometimes because I'm a good American. I want it now. And I think I know how it should be or have a good idea. I mean, it's not always that upfront, but you know, we've all got it, I think.
But he said we were gonna suffer. I mean, we have to realize that. After Adam and Eve, it would have been a really nice life had they not messed up. But after that, he said, you know, you will suffer in childbearing, and you're gonna suffer through your life.
Well, and I know that there's a big school of thought that whenever you compare what you're going through or you're suffering to other people's suffering, there are in the psychiatry and stuff, a lot of people will say that you're belittling what you're experiencing, or you're belittling what somebody else is experiencing when you compare it to other. But that always helps me to come, because there's so much suffering in the world. And usually whatever I think I'm suffering with, when I compare it to what other people in the world are dealing with, it doesn't even compare.
He's suffering out there.
We did find a lot more. Where's that here?
Oh, it's up in the kitchen.
They'll let you go up there. We won't let you back in the room.
I'll just stand up there and make it.
Oh, just leave the door open. I should just let.
Okay, I'm going through an awful lot
Oh, I
these
know.
past couple of years.
Just always.
And little Brittany, I call little Brittany our new priest. She sat me down one day and said, you know, there's not a single lesson or gospel that says that a Christian is going to be safe. It's not there. And even though I've paid very little attention in church for all these years, I mean, very little attention. I've heard now, I've never heard there's not a single gospel says, okay, you all gonna be safe. Or we had a sermon saying, you all go out to your houses, you know, lock everything up and be good and be safe. There's not there. I mean, so expecting to be safe is not there. And going back to your God in the background, if you study social dynamics with people, the most effective people in any organization isn't the idea person or the leader. It's usually the third person that joins the group that's the most effective and makes it work. So it fits into, yeah, God's back there. He's just the second or third person joining the group.
Clean up better.
Exactly, clean up that.
Takes care of everything.
But you were in charge of several people. And there was one person that did, you know, there's always the 10% of the people that do 90% of the work. You had one of those people that had your back and made you effective. I mean, that's kind of like God running around, you know, behind you.
Well, with that analogy, it leads me to think, how many times do I put myself in the number one slot? Trying to clear the path and make it all happen and blah, 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 and.
Somebody has to be the snowplow. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you know, I don't know.
You're making it easier for the person to come behind you. As long as you recognize the people behind you are actually doing a lot of the work. I mean, the people that are behind you trying to help you do the work aren't the people that's willing to take the, you know, aren't willing to take the bumps and the bruises.
No, of course, I'm thinking about it in the realm of my prayer life. how many times do I try to force? And maybe I'm not even that aware. I mean, we all.
I don't want you when you're afraid to.
No, but we have that, shouldn't speak for we, but that American culture that says you go out there and you do it and you make it happen and blah, 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 blah. And I think there's a lot of grace in not having to be the one at the front pushing the way. At least for me, there will be. I think it'll make me more aware of that. Interesting. Okay, question 2, Martin writes, the examine is an antidote. What does he mean by this? It's on page 153 where he refers to it. Well, I wrote down that it's an experience, to me, from what I grasped out of what he wrote, I thought it was like an experience of grace was available. And that it can do no other than greatly increase your gratitude to God and to and for others, is what I kind of got out of the paragraph that he wrote.
I guess I saw it as more of a balance in terms not focusing on just negative, etc. Later on in the chapter, he talked about the whole vision, so not focusing on what was bad only and praying about that or reflecting on that, but more of a balance. It sounded more, I don't know, put in secular terms, just kind of a healthy outlook, healthy mental outlook. I may have missed some deepness.
No, I don't think you did. I think that's what you're saying is exactly like the bottom of that paragraph where it says, first, you will be grateful to God. Second, you will be grateful for your friend, in that situation that he was talking about. Third, you may see your day as more joyful than you had initially thought. And 4, you may feel relief when you realize all these things, my life is not as bad after all. And I mean, that to me links with that lady that was talking on that video of picking out only the one thing, because this talks about so positive, so neat. And I think sometimes when I read the list of things you have to go through, I don't always hit that off right away. So, but I also think, like anything, I think we can tweak it to meet our needs. If we need it to be more positive and not so negative, we can tweak it a little bit and make it however we need it. Because the bottom line is, and I'm sure he'd agree, everything that he's written and that we're going to study is to help us grow in our prayer and spirituality. And, it's like anything, if it's not meeting your needs, you don't continue to, or don't need to continue to keep doing it that way if it's not helping.
I think that's a good thought. It's not a prescription, if you will. It's not prescriptive prayer, but it's one approach. And there's a lot of other approaches. And people get through their spiritual life without ever looking at the examen.
And I think it's a very good approach, but I also know, I know in my heart I'm going to tweak it. That's just the way it's going to be. But because to me, I don't do it routinely, but when I do the Anglican rosaries, recite those, they're extremely meaningful to me. But there are so many, it's obvious people have altered them and made them so they fit different subjects and different ways of praying and, you know, all that kind of thing. So,
The best social skills, the ability to adapt and improvise. So if you say adapt and improvise instead of tweaking, it's.
there we go. That's more resume some material.
I'm adapting and improvising and not tweaking. Because tweaking has a whole different meaning in a different part of our culture, okay?
Well, it just, I mean, even as far as we got in the book so far, to me, it's just so refreshing. Because luckily, I've always kind of thought that it was prayer and everything related to it was very individualized, and it was okay to do, you know, whatever met your needs and that kind of thing. But I don't think a lot of people, or I think there's a lot of people out there that were not given that freedom. I mean, there was a certain way to do it, and you needed to do it that way. And if you didn't do it that way, then you weren't doing it right. And you need to, you know, there's all these expectations, and you know, if you weren't baptized forward, it didn't count. If you weren't baptized backward, it didn't count. If you weren't dunked, it didn't count. I mean, you know, it's like anything, people or something.
You know, we have a one-on-one relationship with God, but.
Yeah, grace is free, but you have to do this and you have to do this.
The only thing we all share is death. It's the only thing that we all share, so, you know.
Once you get here then.
And I think it's wonderful that he can present all this across denomination, across tradition. I mean, I don't even think you'd have to be Christian. I think I even mentioned that in there, that anybody can, you know, utilize these things to help in their spirituality. Well, the second part of that question is, how might you use the examine in your personal prayer life moving forward? And I wrote down initially, of course, this was after we went, or I read this preparing for Jerry's class, but I wrote down that I think it is a good practice. It also feels to me like prayer on a continuum from one day to the next, because it ends with a focus on the day to come, which I thought was kind of cool. I mean, it gives you that, if you allow it, it can give you that hope. And I felt like it was like an unloading. It's kind of like when you go to bed and you can't think, or you can't go to sleep because your mind's racing. And a lot of people keep a tablet and write everything down, which I don't tend to do, which would be a good idea. But this is kind of like an unloading and getting rid of any baggage that you might ruminate on, not only to prevent you from sleeping, but from having peace. And I like the focus of attempting to do better the next day. It might be a little tiny bit better, but you know. I didn't always get this line out of when I read the list of things to do for the examine, but he said the examine helps you to see God in the moment. And maybe that's what the gratitude and the occurrences of the day and that kind of thing. I did love the thing about the man that tucked himself into bed and did it and fell asleep. Because it's kind of like with centering prayer, there will be people at times that will go to sleep and they'll feel real guilty. And real early on, I can't remember, it was Rob Carr or some workshop I was at. They said, if you go to sleep when you're doing centering prayer, you really needed sleep. You know, it's okay. It's okay. You needed to sleep.
I think it's probably a very big benefit if you can start this and go to sleep. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it would pretty much indicate that you're pretty much satisfied with what's going on, wouldn't it?
And see, I would probably almost be more like, he recommended if that kind of thing happens to you, you could always do it in the morning, or early in the day. And I wonder if that wouldn't be a better way for me to do it. I kind of have hang up when it comes to every day. I mean, it's like, I love centering prayer, but you would think, I mean, I couldn't do it every day right now to save my life, and I don't know why.
Uh-huh.
But when I think of
Because
doing
it's
this
part of
every
your-
day,
It's not part of
Right.
your tree.
all right. But well, about all the wisdom I can squeeze out, I think. Anybody else have any thoughts or ideas on the topic?
I just think that the idea of other traditions, you mentioned the Dalai Lama and Merton himself was, I wouldn't say he was a Buddhist, but he practiced Buddhism. He probably didn't pray to the Buddha enlightenment, but there's aspects of Buddhism which are positive. So that crossover probably exists in a lot of areas, a lot of traditions.
There's a video online that I'm probably gonna forget her name. The lady presiding bishop, was it Yori?
Jeffers.
Yes, Shori Jeffrey, yeah. She had a thing where she was taking all these questions from the congregation, and one man asked her if she believed that Jesus was the only way to heaven. And of course, there were a lot of giggles and stuff, and her premise was that she had to believe that God would honor these other attempts to seek God. And that God had never canceled out all the promises he made to the Jews and to the Muslims and all these other people. So she said, since God didn't cancel them out, I can't either. And I don't see how there's not, still a connection, even though it's not, which I'm sure would send a lot of denominations, into the.
If you look at the religions of the world, 23% are Hindu. They're not all going to hell.
Yeah.
So,
I was in a class taught here, 20-some years ago by a rabbi. And he just tried to tell some people that Hebrews was not written when they thought it was. And it was put I forget where it is in the Bible, but anyway, it was put in a position in the Bible where it really didn't belong. And you wouldn't believe it. The reaction was just acidic. They couldn't take that. And I thought, did you really ever study any of that yourself? This guy has. So he must know something about what he's talking about. But yeah, people get very rigid, locked into their concepts.
My way or the highway.
How many times in the Bible does it says that we're all forgiven?
Mhm.
I mean, hundreds, thousands.
Yeah.
How many passages are about forgiveness? I mean,
My tongue's.
it would seem that, having a different religion with all the evil in the world, that having a different religion would be a very minor indiscretion in the whole scheme of things. That might be one of these, oh, you didn't believe in Jesus. Well, okay. I mean, someone can be on death row and say, I believe in Christ, oh, it's great, he redeemed himself at the last minute. He's gonna be fine. Maybe he is, maybe he's not, but going back to my premise that having a different thought is not the biggest indiscretion of all time.
Well, anything else, anybody? Next time. Be chapter 10. It's about 47 pages. It's a long chapter. There's also a deep subject, isn't it? What happens when we pray? Yeah. So look out. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm gonna